Welcome everyone to the Forecast. I'm Johnny, he's Mech, and together we're gonna put on a show.
All right, we're going to move on to our first section, which is, of course, what we've been playing. Johnny, what have you been playing?
What am I playing? PSO is still a thing.
So basically, same stuff as last week, basically.
For the most part.
Man, I wish I was like you. I just have 2 games I play all the time. Yeah. So I finished The Last of Us last week. It was really good. By the way, I recommend it. I'm definitely not going to spoil any of it for you. You should definitely play it yourself. I got the first Age of Empires Definitive Edition, and that's what I've been playing. Dude, I forgot how fun how fun AOE is. It's like I played other RTS since then, and they just haven't done it for me the same way AOE has. And for me, I think it has more to do with the history aspect than the actual gameplay itself. Just because I'm a huge history nerd, so like when I'm like playing as the Egyptians and just conquering the Libyans and the Nubians and stuff, I'm like it feels like I'm reliving history.
You're actually inspiring me, man. I feel like I'm gonna go get it right now. I'm actually downloading Steam.
Yeah, you haven't had Steam on your desktop all this time?
I don't play PC games because if I did, I would never leave my house.
So, our topic for the day is why do we keep playing games? So, we're not talking specifically about like why are we gamers. This is more of a why we come back to the games we've been playing, even if we've beaten it before, or not necessarily beaten it, but it's like an ongoing game that doesn't really have an ending. Why we keep playing it.
Remember when we played Age of Empires online? Yes. I think co-op made it really enjoyable. I had done some co-op in the past, like rudimentary co-op for Age of Empires, and you either get a lot of bums or you got people who are really good and didn't need you. The co-op, it was co-op campaign, right? Was I not mistaken? We were the co-op campaign?
Yeah, co-op campaign. There wasn't as much focus on PvP. It was all like PvE.
And I was okay with that. I think we demolished that. I just want to connect with what made that special. I remember when Destiny came out, Destiny 1. I couldn't wait to get home to turn it on and just play. That feeling has long since subsided, and I think that's natural for any kind of activity. But I have been able to recapture it with certain games, where you're just looking forward to it. Like this, you're just waiting to get in there, whatever that means for the game. And it's just like, wow. Okay, I'm excited. I know I was really drawn to the Simpsons arcade game.
Really?
Remember that one? Yeah, with the family. You played as one of the family members. Yeah. I think the whole point was to save Maggie.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and I would look forward to going to the mall to go to the arcade to put a quarter in and play that game. And I knew that if I got to play with Marge or Bart, I would do better. Because they had a skateboard and a vacuum they would use. But Homer fought with his fist, and I felt like I had to get too close, and it was dangerous. And I had this whole analytical thing going on based on anecdotal evidence, really. They probably all had the same range. And yeah, I don't remember. I think Lisa had a jump rope, but it was trash. So I just like playing with Bart and Marge.
Yeah. Well, okay, here's my question. You know those games that it's like a game where if you just feel like playing the game, but you don't want to get like too involved in something, and you just play like one of the classic games that you grew up on. Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, actually, I have, and I feel like it doesn't. I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't scratch a current itch, but it does remind you of an itch you had and scratches that. So, like, I love queuing up, like, a game of Sonic 2 and just running through the levels. Like, when Sonic Generations came out, that was phenomenal because it took me back to two eras of Sonic that I really enjoyed. Early Dreamcast and, like, mid to late Sega. And so that, to me, was great. That's one of the few Sonic games I've actually owned after Sonic Adventure 1. But that's one of the games that I could just turn on and go, yeah, let me just mess around in here. And that's not even that old, but it has a feeling of the older games. I still have games on my 3DS. and you know, that, again, that's not as old as I can go, but for the sake of conversation, I still get my 3DS that I turn on just to play for the sake of playing. Devil Survivor, I think it's what it's called, Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking like because I always go back to like, Star Fox, Mario, occasional playthrough Metroid Prime, like the entire trilogy in a couple days. It's like, uh, it's just something about those particular games. I guess it had just such a profound influence on my opinions of games that makes me, or I guess my philosophy when it comes to what games I like. Those are the reasons why I come back to them. Why those games are special. What is it about the games that you grew up with that makes you want to come back to them? Or what is the philosophy of your interest in games that brought you back to those ones in particular, or those games in particular?
So when I think about that, it kind of takes me to like my mind immediately went to like music, right? So like I could turn on an old song and it's like wow, and a lot of what that song means to me is where I was when I first heard it or when I was listening to it a lot. So if I think of a song like Mr. Lonely from Akon and I think about where my life was in that moment, that song can take me there. It's almost like a bookmark in my life. When I play that song, I can go back to that chapter. Not like nostalgia, like longing for it, but like I can relive the experience. I think the games of my youth up till around my mid 20s all have that effect, one way or another. Like I can remember playing Mass Effect and where I was in life during 1, 2, and 3, and that's just like a bookmark. I can remember the first time I beat Sonic Adventure 1 on the first Dreamcast that I bought with my own money. I can remember these things. I think going back to these games, even ports of them, it also what makes it special to me, less about the gameplay and more about like where was I in my life when I was doing this, and why do I want to revisit that? Like Chrono Trigger. Oh, big deal. I learned how to install the ZSNES emulator on my computer, and I was able to play Chrono Trigger. That was a big deal for me because my computer was a piece of garbage, but I got it to work and I played the heck out of that game. You know what I mean? And Chrono Trigger and State Save, if you know what that is, go hand in hand because Chrono Trigger has you able to make decisions that affect the outcome of the game. So you had a bunch of good saves that you could use, and it was just a great time. Um, yeah. So I think for me, what brings me back to older games are the memories attached to them when I first played them.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think part of it comes well with like Star Fox, for example. I'm like constantly trying to beat my own score even today. Like my old high score is around like I want to say 1650, which I've seen people get up to like the 3000s. So I'm like so I feel like small fry comparatively. But it's like seeing what people who can get those who do that score attack method do, and trying to figure out how they did it. It's like that's what trying to learn how to be good at fighting games, or like what seeing people being good at Smash Bros. That's me trying to like be better at Star Fox, or even like speed runs and like Metroid and stuff. That's the equivalent for me. Maybe it's just because I'm an only child, so maybe it's because I grew up only playing single player games for most of my life. But it's like at that point, it's you're just the only person you can really beat is yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like I had a little sister, and I still have a little sister. She's absolutely fine. We did the co-op thing, but I arguably had more fun playing a game like Final Fantasy VII by myself, instead of like having to entertain her.
So that's what we're talking about for older games. You were talking more about like newer games or more current games. So maybe if the reason why I go back to those older games is because of the philosophy, like the my interest in those particular games. Maybe it's the same way for current, or it might be the same way for some of the games I play now. The thing is, I don't play as many MMOs as I used to. But now I think about it, like I go back to So I'll still play like a round of Civilization, which has no story mode. So it's like it's designed for just like you just want to play a game. And dude, the one more term meme is real. Entire days have gone by for me and I forgot. And I'm like just and I'm like I have time for one more turn. And the thing is you can save any time, so you can all it's not like it's hard to come back to, but it's like it gets addicted. It's you just want to see what happens every time.
Give it to me like on 5 in like a minute. Like, what is it that makes it addicting?
Well, the thing about Civ is it's like a board game turned into a video game. So it's it's all turn based, but it's about like building up your civilization, hence the name. Um, but it's also it's not like because it's turn based, you can see what people around you are doing, and it kind of gives you an idea of what you can plan. And it's just like you're constantly like researching stuff, and you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna play till this is researched. Then you're like, oh, I can research this now. Okay, I'll just keep going till then. And it's like it turns themselves don't even take particularly long, but it's like you're just going for you're by the time you have such a bigger civilization, there's so much stuff you can do within one turn that you're like apprehensive if you've actually done everything you need to for that turn. Same thing with if you've played any of the Total War games. It's just wanting to see if you can finally conquer the territory that you've been vying for so long.
You, sir, are getting me interested in this game.
Which one, Civ or Total War?
Or
Total War, yeah. The Shogun one is pretty fun. If you're interested in the Warring States period in Japan, the Sengoku Jidai, yeah. It's like the main battle is all that. It's basically all the different the different daimyos, the different warlords are like fighting for control of Japan. So just trying to get your final hand on the last of the territory.
yeah, I love the Warring States period, honestly,
Yeah.
because I played a lot of Dynasty Warriors, and it was it was a good time.
Okay, I think I covered why I like playing certain games over and over again. How about you?
Why? I think it, for the modern stuff, I mean, so I'm gonna go into a rant. There's a lot of science behind games now, like a lot of science, and I mean in terms of like psychology,
Right.
like where things are placed on the screen, the colors that are used, and there's a goal. The goal is to get you to engage, whether it's spend money, time, whatever. And I think that's neat. And I really think it's cool. If I wasn't a gamer, I'd be like, wow, what a cool thing to like be aware of. As a gamer, the gamer side of me, that's the target. Like, I'm a target. These things are designed to manipulate my mind into doing things I may not otherwise want to do.
Skitterbox.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
You ever heard Skitterbox? It's a form of Pavlovian conditioning. It's basically how games manipulate you into basically spending more time playing their games. It's like they slowly increase what your rewards are, but you have to spend even more time to play in order to get it.
so that's part of it. You know what I mean? And I think that speaks into the overarching point that I'm making. Like Sonic the Hedgehog, and I go back to this a lot because I feel like that was a fundamentally great game. Number 2 and 3, but mostly number 2. It didn't ask you to do anything more than pick up the controller and control the character. You know what I mean? And all the challenge was intrinsic. There were no leaderboards. It had a little bit of PvP, but it was trash. You weren't really concerned about that. And you were able to kind of just get in there, and do your thing. That capture that, get the other stuff that they want to get. So a game that allows you to just play it and have fun in the game, and then it goes, hey, by the way, you can buy this or do that. I think those games deserve the additional support, if you will, versus games that are like, we're gonna lock everything behind something else. And I kind of defer back to Star Wars. What is it? Was it
Battlefront
Rogue
2?
Squadron?
Which one?
Battlefront 2.
No, Rogue Squadron was great. Yeah, there's like
No,
it's
I know it was
just-
Battlefront 2. It was totally Battlefront 2.
You're talking about the newer ones, right? Not the older ones.
No, I mean, I can use them both for this example. The older one just wanted you to pick up and play, grab your sticks, and go out there and freaking win the war. The new one was like, grab your sticks and grind to your thumbs bleed, or and hear us out. You can give us some real world money in addition to what you paid, and we'll release some of this already designed, completed content to you. And I mean, theirs was a more egregious kind of form of it, but every game does it. I mean, games that treat their purchased content like free to play and then ask for more on top of it pose a almost like a moral dilemma that I'm not going to get into. We can save that from their podcast. Point being, a game that has me come back is a game that respects my time and rewards it and allows me to escape from the stress that I'm having in the world by giving me just enough stress in the game to make it worth my time, but not so much where I'm dreading it or like loathing it.
What's your opinion on like games that involve a lot of grinding? What's your opinion of grinding?
My opinion of grinding is actually rather neutral. I mean, if grinding's a part of the experience, then so be it. Just A, make it super clear what I'm signing up for. B, give me a rewarding and satisfying gameplay loop. And then C, make the rewards worth my time.
The way when I think about games that involve like decent as far as leveling up systems or just general grinding systems where I don't mind the grind so much, there are always games where it's like the grinding is more to encourage you to move further in the game, not so much to make you spend more time in the game. If that makes sense. Like because I'm thinking like early on it's to make you prepare, right? But I'm thinking like there's a lot of like mobile games that are like that where they put limitations on how much you can play per day, but they also make it that you have unless you spend real world money to play longer. But they also make it so you have to grind. That's just to me that's just exploitative.
So you know me, I love distinction, right? I love to discuss distinctions. How would you, and I think we've discussed this before, but let's go over it one more time. How would you distinguish grinding and farming?
Farming is when is for getting material. Grinding is for leveling up. So like, there's technically no like when it comes to like Monster Hunter, for example, up until Monster Hunter World is the first time where I could say there actually was genuine grinding in the game. Up till then, it was all just farming for parts. So like, for example, if you farm for money, right? When you're just defeating monsters over and over again, in like most RPGs.
Do you throw loot into that equation too with the farm?
Oh yeah, like, but because that's basically like in Monster Hunter, that's basically getting monster parts. That's you're getting loot.
I think a lot of grinding gets collapsed into farming because I think people are more purist when it comes to farming and they're a little more loosey when it comes to grinding. I think grinding for people now is more the feeling of playing a game over and over to get stuff versus actually grinding out levels. You know what I mean? Right. I think people kind of collapse the term with the feeling, but when you say farming, people seem to respect that term in the sense where it's like they know that it's generally related to getting an item or getting loot or whatever. But I feel like both are ruined by RNG, but I feel like farming is a little more forgiving of a term because it's like I know what I'm getting. I'm just trying to get a lot of it versus like I'm grinding the game to get this one thing due to RNG. What would you call that process?
I would just see that as farming. But I see what you mean though. If you're like, you mean like, okay, like let's say in Persona, for example, let's say there's a certain persona you're trying to fuse, but the only way with Persona, you can only fuse at your current level, or you can only fuse personas at your current level. So you're like grinding levels just so you can fuse that persona. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
No, not quite, because you actually have an end goal. Like you're grinding to get to an end goal. There's a grind to a destination. I'm more so like, let's say this event has a 1 in 20 chance to drop an item, and I'm doing the event over and over again. I'm not getting levels because I'm capped, and I'm not really getting the items I'm getting while doing the event are not what I'm looking for. So, what would you call that?
That's
Because I'm not grinding levels, I'm not farming the item events per se. I'm trying to get the one rare drop.
I disagree. I think that still counts as farming because you're trying to get because you're searching for one specific item.
Farming the event.
Yeah, you're okay. Like let's say maybe this should make a different term. Like maybe mining would be a better term.
Okay for that. I don't think it's a good or bad term. I would like to just kind of understand,
Yeah.
like I said, distinctions between, because if to me, if I'm farming something in the purest sense of the word, I can go back to AOE and go, okay, I'm farming food right now. So I have all my villagers hunting, they're gathering berries, I'm building farms, literal farms,
yeah.
because I'm farming food.
Well,
Like
that's,
I know I'm gathering food. Huh.
Well, that's different because that's actually part of the game mechanics. Farming is like a colloquial term for, or it's like a general gamer term for trying to get a bunch of a resource. The reason why I was thinking mining might be a good term is because you're looking at you're basically trying to sift through a bunch of garbage for the one thing you actually care about. Yeah, but then there are like diamond farms, I think. Maybe I just made that up. But I'm going to pretend, if I just made it up, I'm going to pretend that for the sake of argument, there's diamond farms. You still have to find the diamonds. If you're looking for like one specific item, there's a chance you can get it. It's just such a slim chance. But you're still sifting through. You're still kind of farming, so to speak.
So you're not grinding for the item, you're farming for the item.
Yeah.
And a subset of farming is mining.
Yes, we'll go with that. So item mining. Kind of like, okay, in Monster Hunter, you're literally mining for like that one chance you might get a few CM more. Farming is more of like, because the reason why I draw the distinction is because you would be farming for gold, right? Because you need money. Whereas you're grinding so that you can get to the next level. So like when I think grinding, I think like say you're grinding an axe to make it sharper. And then farming is like it's not so much about the quality of the items, it's what you're trying to get. You're just trying to get a bunch of it.
Right. So that makes sense to me. So grinding, you're looking to, like you said, raise your level or raise your stats. Farming, you're looking to raise the quantity of whatever items you have, whether it's gold or whatever.
So that you can then use that to improve yourself.
Right, exactly. Farming is more economy, grinding is more player. So what is it where you're looking for specific loot?
That's the thing. I would still classify it as farming. But then if we use mining as a definition, it would make a more clear distinction because you're only looking for a specific item. How did this conversation become suddenly about like the definition of farming when we were talking about what makes us want to play games?
Funny you should ask. Let's loop it all the way back.
cool.
I think games that have a healthy grind and a healthy farm potential and reward you for the time you spend doing either of those, if you choose to play the game like that, I think have the higher comeback value for me. PSO 2, one of the games I'm currently playing, has a very high, extremely high grind and farm reward ratio. Like it's almost off the charts compared to any other game I've ever played, and it's great. I can explain it to you, but I'll keep it light. There is a level cap that they encourage you to hit, and then there's a job system that's directly proportional to that. And there's like 8 or 9, well, not even jobs, classes, and you can have 2 classes at once and level them up. So there's tons of reward for your just general gameplay time in terms of experience if you're just grinding levels. And then there's so many other little mechanics in the game that there's no such thing as a useless item. Not a single item that you can pick up is useless. And between player shops, like player owned shops, and augmenting your equipment and really pushing the upper limits of your character's capabilities. There's just so much to do, and it's so well balanced for your time that it just feels good to come back in, even if it's just for an hour. You feel like you can make progress.
Okay, that's what you're saying. Um, I I'm not so much that way. Maybe when it comes to those kinds of games, it's really more of like the multiplayer aspect. Because when I came to playing Final Fantasy 14, originally I was gonna do it with my friends, but then my friends didn't want to pay for the game anymore, and neither did I. So we stopped playing it. But I'm like, I was getting really into it too. I was an arcanist. I was like having fun. It's just like it. Like, I don't know what class you prefer, if you prefer just being the hard attacker, but I'm like I like playing the black mage, so to speak. So I just like being a far range damage dealer. That's more of my thing. Yeah, that's me. And then yeah, so like when all they were all basically when everyone moved on with their lives, so did I. Like it just wasn't I didn't have the same draw because I wanted to do some dungeon crawling and stuff. Dungeon crawling with friends is fun, but like doing it by yourself, I might as well just play a single player game. Why would I spend money on it?
No, it's interesting. I feel you on that. There have been so many games that I enjoyed, but I put down because my friends moved on. Apex Legends was one of them. That's a recent game, came out last year or so,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it, man. I was having a great time, and then my friends started playing it. I was having an even better time, and then we just stopped playing together, and I stopped playing the game.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that's why because why games like Minecraft and Terraria, even though I have Terraria, like the reason why I don't really play them by myself is because I don't play it with other people. Because like that the games are fun when you're working together to beat the game, like or to like complete whatever objective you decide to do ahead of time. Like I do you know who Peanut Butter Gamer is? Well, he has his they have their hardcore series. They'll do like um hardcore in like Minecraft and Terraria is like you don't get any respawns, so if you die you're dead. You're kicked from the game. They straight up kick you from the game if you die. It's like watching those series or like, man, I want those kinds of adventures. Like it's about trying to find like the right people to play it though. So what would you say we've learned today?
Um, in summary, I feel like it's important for every gamer. And I hate that term, honestly. Anybody that enjoys video games to find the magic in it and be able to clearly identify it, so that way you're not playing games as a job, unless it is your job, and that's another podcast we'll have later. But like for anybody else who doesn't, I think the most fun I had in games are when they take me away from my reality and allow me to like be in the game. That was as a child. As an adult, it's the same bonus of thinking about it when I'm gone. Like I come back home sometimes with an absolute strategy I want to try for different games because I'm thinking about it all day. And with things like YouTube and for funsies, I'm able to experience those games while I'm at work. But yeah, that was a shameless plug. I don't care. You made it this far. Go check out our videos.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is like I think find the magic, capture the magic, and look for games that have you connect with the magic. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I'm not gonna add to that. Okay. I don't really have anything else to add. So let's move on to our final segment, which is, of course, fewer questions. What games help you de-stress in a therapeutic release kind of way?
You know what's funny? Rhythm games. I don't play them a lot, but they do provide that kind of de-stress factor.
Are you talking about like straight up Dance Dance Revolution with the pad and everything, or are you talking about like just like Guitar Hero or something?
It's funny, not so much Guitar Hero, more like a DDR or even a good tap kind of game. Those give me a clean form of stress that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my effort is directly proportional to my success.
Honestly, games like Civ, it's like basically board games are my de-stress, or that style of game. Because I could definitely tell you like Smash is not relaxing.
Oh gods no.
Yeah.
Smash is intense. You gotta sit in the edge of your seat.
Yeah. Even
Like even most turn-based strategies, they're kind of relaxing. Like even Pokemon.
Pokemon can be relaxing. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Most people would probably say like Animal Crossing or Harvest Moon, like life simulator games. And I definitely was getting that when playing like Persona. When you play like Persona and you're like ranking up your relationships or your stats and whatever. How did overworld maps and JRPGs go out of fashion? I'm thinking games like Brave the Default. They had an overview map, or an overworld map. Maybe because it's games started becoming more when the idea of the overworld, in my opinion, the reason why is because the idea of the overworld map was to simulate you move it was literally to simulate you moving around the world. So like when you're in when you're in the city, you're in like obviously when you go into the city everything's small again, but when you go in once you finally get back out, actually I was playing the demo to the new Bravely Default game that's coming out, the second one, and it had an overworld. It had an overworld map. I I don't necessarily think they're out of fashion. It's just more of like the practicality of, or at the time they made it. It was practical. Now it's just not. It's not always necessary.
I think maybe it added something to the game, like it gave you a sense of scale that can almost be captured now in the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
Like I think about the overworld map in Final Fantasy VII, and if I hope I'm saying it correctly, when you stepped out of a city, you were in this giant map, and you could see across the earth pretty much. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's like it was like that in a lot of early Final Fantasies, but I even remember in Final Fantasy 14, you like fast travel kind of eliminated the need for a lot of that. And it just became a matter of like walking from one area to another. Like Xenoblade doesn't have an overworld. It's all like a big connected area.
Okay. So what is the best reply to "you aren't funny"?
Now I have to make one. Now I have to have one. Cause most of the time it just becomes a shut up. A lot of times it's neither are you. Because the people who have told me I'm not funny are usually stoners who are like, yeah, Moose. Yeah. These guys didn't think Cheech and Chong was funny. Like,
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, yeah.
Here's a couple. Here's a couple. One guy says, "I'm not joking." Someone says you're not funny. You say, "I'm not joking."
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like if I wanted tips on how to make a joke, I'd ask your parents.
no, I'm not funny. I'm dad. And that is like the ultimate. That is like wallowing and you're not being funny.
Dad reversal joke. Lord of mercy.
Okay. Well, thank you once again. That is going to conclude the forecast. Once again, I am Mech.
I'm Johnny, and can I just thank Mech for a second? That is a dope name for a podcast for Funsies. The Forecast. Like, I know it's our show, but like that's still a dope name. I'm just saying.
Why, thank you. You can't see me right now, but I'm bowing in humbleness.